On the last episode, we finally built our permanent home within this snowy mountainous area. Now it was time to explore not only the nearby areas, but I figured since we have a little wolf that runs really fast, we can explore the entirety of the map. But that's not all. Stay tuned to the end to see what happens. Anyway, I hop on my wolf and I decided to head across the lake first to see what is up in the mountains. And sure enough, my search for metal was short. There is tons of just pure metal nodes everywhere up on the top of the mountain. So I bring along some of my bears so I can mine all of it, at least most of what I can, stick it on them to carry it back home, and I can fill up my forge. Upon my return home, there was a T-Rex attacking my base. Luckily, my creatures were able to fend for themselves and killed the T-Rex. No harm there, no one was hurt, no one died. Well, a little hurt, but not quite dead. Once I made sure that the coast was clear, I returned back to the bears and had them carry the metal to the forge so I could fill it up and start making some metal ingots. As some of the metal started to cook, I took it and began making my fur armor. I made the boots and the gloves first. The pants will come later on once I get some more metal made. The fur color wasn't quite to my liking, so I headed inside and started to prep the cooking pot for making dyes. I don't get to make it right yet, I will be making it later, but at least I can get started seeing what colored berries I need in order to make browns and black dye. I also take a quick look around as my home is starting to actually feel like a home now. It's very small and cozy. Though before it is time to go out exploring the rest of the map, I do need to do a little bit of farming to make sure I am prepared for my journey. I head back out to the river that you cross to get to the snow biome, and I find stuck saber-tooth babies up on top of a rock. I try to tame them, which I do manage to tame all three of them, but they don't follow me, they're still stuck on the rock. I figured, okay, maybe it is the rock itself that has got them stuck, so I try breaking the rock, but they are still floating and stuck up above. It wasn't until later, even after all of my many attempts to try to get them unstuck, even by hitting them to see if it would push them away. Afterward, one of them ends up dying from starvation, which gave the others the freedom in order to start moving around. Unfortunately, a second one soon dropped dead. I quickly hurried to save the third one and put meat into its bag, where it started to eat and not die. I named that one Sabor, and that one will stay with me for my adventures. Not too far away, we also found a Hyaenodon. I got down low and tried to tame her, only she ran off, so I was not successful in that attempt. Hyaenodons are a massive pain in the ass if you don't know how to tame them. You basically have to sneak up to them and pet them. That's your passive way of taming. However, if you get too close too fast, they will run away and you'll have to start all over again. And if there are multiple of them nearby, they will attack you, so you do have to try to get them one by one if you can. Another mod that I added is to add the Shiba Inu dog as a little companion. It seems to me, however, that they always seem to spawn in the water, so most of the time when I find them, they're just always drowned already, which is kind of weird. I went to go take it out of the water, but my wolf decided to eat it instead. Anyway, I soon found an Ankylosaur not too far from where I was, and I said, perfect, time to tame it so I can start farming some serious metal. Luckily for me though, I was able to do it on foot as the Ankylosaur is slow as shit, so I just, trank arrowed it until it eventually went down, and I put berries in its inventory to tame it properly. I mean, you can see all around me on the beach right there, there is just a ton of metal and obsidian, and in the water just off the shore right there, there's a lot of oil. So, because I needed a little bit of oil, while I waited for the Anklyo to tame, I went down into the water. I basically just swam because it really wasn't that deep, and there were no sharks or any kind of enemies that I saw, at least at that moment, and I dove down to farm up some of the oil. Once I got home, all of the metal that I was cooking in the forge was ready to use, so I made the pants for my fur armor set, I upgraded my axe to be metal as well as my spear, I made a couple of other additional items as well, got my food ready, and I began dyeing my armor. I used a ton of browns in order to get the leather and the fur right where I wanted it to, and I dyed the bandana around my head to be black. I don't know why, I just thought it looked better with it being black. Now I am ready for my expedition into the Appalachian Mountains. The first place I decided to explore was northeast of my base, where I found a large frozen lake. It was a bit barren of creatures, but it seemed to be only in that moment, as later on when I came back to revisit it, there were creatures that do spawn here. I was just a bit unlucky at this moment, though it's okay. That means I could take in the beauty without the fear of being eaten by any of the inhabitants of this land. I was also bamboozled, as I thought I had found a cave and I thought this would be perfect to go exploring and spelunking, only to find out it was just a dirt patch in the side of the iceberg. So yeah, no cave there, but there are caves in this map and we need to go and find them. Going north from my base is a massive grassland, and this is one of my favorite areas that I've actually revisited several times since this recording, but there are tons of horses here, especially the new horses from the mod, which is not quite in this video, but you'll see them in probably the next video or the one after that. Either way, there are a ton of creatures out here, from the spiky boys to horses, including Carcharnodontosaurus, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm not quite sure, but there are also other dangers as well. I did find a T-Rex, and I decided to hunt that on wolfback. I battled with the T-Rex for several minutes, but shortly into the battle, a terror bird came out of the forest and began pecking at its ankles. I said, cool, it's actually helping me fight the T-Rex, though at some point as the T-Rex got lower health, I thought, oh no, if I let it kill it, it might eat it before I can get my victory pose. So I had to rush in and kill the terror bird before it could eat the T-Rex. And luckily that was the final blow I also needed for the T-Rex as well. So I went and I posed on top of the mighty beast, establishing my dominance over the grasslands. Though while I may be the king of killing a T-Rex, a Giga is surely one thing I cannot take on, let alone two, which were right nearby. I quickly ran into the forest in hopes of trying to lose both of them. Luckily though, they cannot run through the forest nearly as nimble as my wolf, so I did manage to get away, though I think one of them did manage to nip me at one point. As I ran from the Gigas, I made my way into the Redwoods forest, where I found a really cool, little battle arena of beaver dams. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but there is in fact a world boss that spawns here. You don't see him here at the moment, that's why I didn't know that it was a boss arena when I first, encountered this area, but it is still cool nonetheless. I explored the nearby lake area, and I thought, man, I would have liked to build my house here, but I actually like where it is right now, so I continued on to the west, where I ran into a Carcharnodontosaurus. I cannot pronounce that for the life of me, but just pretend you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I have never seen one of these things before. I knew they were in the game, they were added in recently from what I remember, but I've never actually seen one until now, and boy oh boy do they haul ass. I was not expecting it to run that fast. Even with my wolf's great speed, it was still right up on me, biting me every second. It actually did a lot of damage. Luckily, I was able to lose it in the woods, only for it to catch right back up to me. But on the second around, it did not follow me into the woods. So luckily, I did manage to escape that ordeal, but goddamn, I do not want to face those things, at least just yet. I eventually made my way to the northwestern corner of the map. This whole area is a desert biome, just like the Scorched Earth map, and whatever you could find on Scorched Earth, you can find here, from the terrible terror birds to the moths, including the Phascolasuchus like you see right here. But there are also abandoned mining towns, or at least they think they're mining towns, and you can go inside of them like I do here. Though I also got attacked by a bunch of terror birds that thought they had me cornered. Luckily for me, my wolf is stronger than them, and I was able to take them on easily. I also noticed that this area of the map, as well as the northeastern area of the map, are where a ton of the loot crates seem to spawn. They are easier to find at night, which you'll see me do later on, but for now, I decided to keep exploring this whole area. Opening up my first beacon, which happened to be a red beacon, I found not really anything useful. I took the food that was within it because I am allowed to use food, but I decided I am not using technology in this playthrough, so I didn't really take the gun or anything else that it had in there. And that's going to be a bit of a theme with these loot crates that drop all over the place. A lot of them have technology, but I have to throw it all out because I am not using it on this playthrough. As night fell, I used this as a perfect opportunity to go loot crate hunting and find all of the various ones that spawn in this area, as they glow bright in colors and are very hard to miss. Though that makes the nighttime the perfect opportunity to hunt all of them down, as while you can see them during the day, it's not nearly as easy. Now, I do find a lot more useful stuff on the next few things I find. I find some water pipes, some bear traps, not anything special, but at least I can use them, unlike the red one that I found earlier. After the night spent of looking for all these various loot crates, I continued to explore the desert now that I can see again in the daylight, and I found myself near where a couple of the world bosses spawn. Right where I am is supposed to be where the Chupacabra spawns, but he is not there at the moment, and nearby across the river is supposed to be a giant mountain with the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is also another cryptid that is based in a real-life cryptid of our Americas. Now, I didn't actually check to see if the Thunderbird was there because I did not know he existed at this point of time. I only knew about the Chupacabra because earlier I had seen him, I only ran away, and I could not find him again until later on, but you will not see that in this video. Now that I was done with the jungle, it was time to head back home, though I was going to do a sweeping circle to see the southwestern corner that I have not seen yet. South of the desert area is mostly a jungle and wooded area, but eventually you will find a bayou or a wetlands. Now, the wetlands area is not finished yet. There are no gators or crocodiles. There are the occasional snake or the baryonyx that you can find, or maybe a titan boa, but in general you're going to find mostly fish, and of course the world boss, but you will not again see it in this video. That will be for later on. Now, as you saw there, a couple of these spiky boys had me cornered up on a cliff. I had to wait until they were distracted in order for me to run without being seen. Though following this river that I went down, I eventually come across a really cool crystalline cave. It is a very small cave, so there's not much in there to explore. It is mostly for crystal harvesting, but either way, it was a neat little find. Between the desert and this grassland area was a cool little savanna that I found that had elephants. This is another creature from the RR Star mod that I have. These are also creatures that you could find in the Atlas game. Now, I didn't kill it or try to tame it at this moment. I just wanted to look at it and say, wow, that's pretty neat. Though there were a lot of carnivores in the area and I needed to start heading home, so I quickly headed south where I eventually found the bayou that I mentioned earlier. The bayou itself is really neat, but as I said before, it is still being worked on, so there are no creatures, at least not a lot of creatures that spawn here right now, though I am on the Discord and it is currently being worked on. The developer is aware of the issues with the spawning rates in the bayou and are currently being fixed, so by the time you see this video, it might already be fixed with alligators everywhere, snakes everywhere, including Dinosuchus and other creatures of the swamp. Eventually, after about an hour or two of playtime exploring the entirety of the map, at least the majority of the map, I finally make my way home. I store away all of the loot that I found on my adventures from the loot crates, as well as all the various creatures that I had defeated. Though now it was actually time to start thinking about progression. So the first thing I do is I make one of those blood cocktails so I can start taming some of the spiky boys. I started off with just one, though you'll find out probably by the next episode that I'm gonna need more than just one. Even so, I made one for right now and put it away into my inventory. I also went ahead and pre-made the saddle, so that is ready to go. Oh, a bit of a side note, the little water scorpions, I cannot pronounce their name either, yeah, those are actually in the river near my base, so if you happen to find them, that's a great source of black pearls if you need them for any reason. I needed them for some of the primitive weapon mod that I needed, but you'll find out pretty soon here that that was a terrible choice. Now, here's a funny thing. I decided to stop recording just so I could do a little bit of farming while I wasn't recording, because, you know, who wants to watch me farm a bunch of metal and trees nonstop? And while I was doing that, both an alpha carno and an alpha raptor attacked me at the same time. Luckily, I had a couple of my bears with me, including my Ankylosaur, because we were out farming metal, and we managed to kill both of them. Now I have the arm and that talon that I needed, that I told you about in the first episode, in order to make the primal station for that mod. Excited to finally see this primitive station from the mod I installed, I quickly headed back home with all of the loot that I had acquired. I put the metal from the bear that was stored into the forge so it can start cooking, and I went to create the primitive forge. But then there was another issue. The weapon that I was interested in, which was the Aztec sword, it required around 1500 wood. Holy shit. Anyway, it was time to start farming that wood, so I needed a creature that could help me farm all of that wood easily. Well, Ulf is a pretty good idea. I thought this is a perfect opportunity to go and tame a mammoth. That's one of the key creatures that I wanted to tame for this playthrough. So I prepped myself, I grabbed my wolf, and I headed out to that tundra area that we found in the previous episode where all of the mammoths roam. And yes, we are going to be doing this by moonlight. The moon was setting, dawn would soon be upon us, but as I explored the tundra area, I eventually found a mammoth that would work for me, a level 80 black mammoth. Perfect! Now it was time to take down this mighty beast. I pulled out my trank arrows, and just like with the Carno and all of the creatures before, I kited it around the area, though it wasn't the best area to do so, as all of those fallen logs did stop me a few times. But I was determined anyway. It took quite a while. By the time that the mammoth finally did drop, sunrise was coming over the mountains. I had to repair my bow several times by jumping off my wolf, quickly grabbing some fiber and repairing it while still running away from him. But, like I said, eventually he dropped and the fight was over. Now to actually tame him by putting berries into his inventory. Though this next part is also going to take quite a while, and the cold was starting to come in, so I quickly made myself a little campfire to camp out and wait for the mammoth to tame up. I took a couple of badass screenshots of myself, which you've probably already seen before if you follow me on the Discord of the Appalachia, or I've been posting it as well on my community page. Either way, I went AFK for a while, came back, it was now daylight. I took a few more screenshots, but it was still gonna be a while before the mammoth tamed. So, in my boredom, I decided to go on an actual mammoth hunt. This time it was going to be to the death and not into a torpor state. Watch now as I primitively take down this mammoth with a bow and arrow, like a true man of the Ice Age. The battle lasted quite a while, but eventually the mighty beast was felled. And of course, I had to take several badass screenshots with me on top of the mighty mammoth. Now don't worry, I did also realize that hunting it while kiting is a bit cheesy, as I thought it would have been cool, but I'm gonna make a better attempt next time to hunt on foot with just my bow and arrow and spear, and not have to rely on my mount so much. Eventually, the mammoth that I had tamed finally finished taming, so I brought him back home. I went and made a saddle for him and began farming all of that wood. It took quite a while, and unfortunately I did deforest the entire area around my home, which also leads to another issue of the map, is that the trees and the bushes within the snowy locale don't seem to really respawn even if you use a refertilizer, so that's a bit unfortunate. And don't worry, the developer does know about this issue, as I let him know on his Discord. But either way, I went to finally make the Aztec weapon, the one I had been waiting for since episode 1. All I needed was an alpha raptor claw and 1500 wood. I finally acquired all of that, and the weapon is bugged. Just like the spear from the first episode, it puts you into a T-pose state. The animations when you are in first person are completely bugged out, and it uses so much stamina with 3 hits rather. You just completely go into a torpor state. I even tried just doing a couple of swings on the beaver. Not only did it do no damage whatsoever, but it didn't even aggro the damn beaver. So yeah, something is up with this mod, and it was at this point that I decided to completely uninstall this mod. And that also meant I uninstalled the other primitive mod, which means no more meat rack, which is a bit sad, but it's okay. I still have the preserving bin. So even with the awesome mammoth hunting that I did, it does seem that this video ends on a bit of a sour note. So that's a bit unfortunate, but you know, what can you do? Anyway, I want you to like this video and subscribe if you want to see part 4. Are we on part 4 already? Oh god. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of recording and just playing this map non-stop. I've got several more episodes that I am able to make with all the footage that I have. So please stay tuned if you want to see more, and I will see you next time. Florida Gatorman out.